Hey,
Hey,
Mondays
yo,
are mine.
Mondays are for the mind. You know what it is.
That's right, and we're kicking off
There we go.
April. Kicking off April with a special guest today. Joining us, we have Alex Duquette.
Hello.
Yo, what's up,
Alex, welcome to
Alex?
the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, guys. I feel honored to be here.
It's an
do.
honor to have you.
This is exciting. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Honor to have you. Today,
Oh yeah, most definitely.
we're talking about those April showers, those
April
storms
showers.
that can come your way in life, and just the way it can just seem like chaos, and how to keep your head during these things. And we asked Alex to join us because he recently weathered a storm of his own that kind
Yeah.
of threw his life into disarray a little bit. So you want to tell everybody what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I need to preface this since we've all kind of met kind of recently. I am not an athletic guy. Okay, never have been. As you can imagine, I'm the creative type, right? You see all my crap here. About in the middle of 2021, my girlfriend and I, especially me, I just kind of dragged her along, but I really got into mountain biking, which if you know me at all, you'd go, why the hell are you mountain biking? like, why are you doing that? That's just not who I am, right? But for some reason, I fell in love with it. I'm stuck indoors all day, so I wanted to, do something fun outside. It's good to be out in the air, like, it's nice to
Oh
be
yeah.
out in nature. I think so. It's refreshing and it's good for your brain. So anyway, I got into mountain biking, and about 5 months after getting into it, so this is November of 2021, I took a little too big of a risk, and I hit a tree, and I broke my leg, and I broke my wrist
Damn.
at the same time. It wasn't fun. And I mean, that's kind of the general idea. I stopped myself. I was going down the steep hill that I wasn't prepared to do, and I stopped myself on the tree with my hand, right? So to try and stop myself from falling, but that just made it worse. So I hit the tree, I flipped, and then I flipped again and landed on my leg. So I broke my tibia, which is the weight-bearing bone, and then I broke my wrist, which you can see the surgery scars. I broke my wrist in 7 different spots at the joint. So it was a pretty nasty, pretty nasty injury. Never been to the doctor, never been to the hospital, never any of this shit, and then all of a sudden it all
Wow.
happens
Yeah.
at once. That's how it goes. I swear.
That is how
It
it goes.
definitely is.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but that's kind of the general idea of what happened.
Damn.
Yeah. So I mean, you got several things that you do. You have your own YouTube channel, your own podcast, everything like that.
Yeah.
And so, from what I understand, you kind of all that kind of took a hit with
Oh
this.
yeah, yeah. And see, and that's the thing. You talk about trying to keep positive. And I consider myself a pretty positive guy overall. But when that happens, when something bad happens to you like that, you want to go to your vices. You want to go to what you cope with, right?
Mhm.
When you break your hand and you play piano, you can't cope, right? You can't
Right.
do the thing you want to do because you're upset that you broke everything and you can't do anything, right?
Right.
Like that was hard. That was very difficult. It was one of those things where, and my trajectory was really interesting too. And stop me if I start going off on rails because I'll just go all over the place when I talk. But I remember that first week it was abnormally positive, right? So and I think it's because I was really just dissociating and not realizing what happened. But I was going I was talking to Steph, my girlfriend. And I was like, man, I can still do the jam and chats. I can do it with one hand, and I'm gonna write an album about about me breaking my bones and write 12 songs about my experience. And I was trying to be really positive, and I do encourage anyone to do so if possible.
Right.
That was the beginning, and then once it hit me, and I actually started to process what happened, like a week, 2 weeks later, it got pretty bad, and I realized that I can't do the crap that I want to do, and it got. I went through a bit of a seasonal depression, if you will, because you can't do anything. Like, think about it. You've got a whole leg cast on your left leg, a whole cast on your right hand. You can't shower on your own. You can't go to the bathroom on your own. You can't, shout out to Steph because she's a beautiful girl and she's a beautiful heart because she's the one that took
Right.
care of me for 2 months. So shout out to her. But it's not easy. So it was tough to deal with that. But yeah, so it definitely got in the way of my creative endeavors for a long time, which wasn't good. So, but
So, what did you find any other ways to cope?
well, um, yeah, yeah, and no. It's kind of my story is kind of weird with it.
Hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, it ends up on a positive note, which is great. So, because let's see, how would I word this? I guess so. Once I realized that I wasn't gonna be able to do much, the first thing I thought was, well, I can play video games still, kind of. Like I had one hand for a while, I could still play video games a little bit, and then I started to be able to use my right hand for the cast, and I could kind of play them. I couldn't
Hmm.
play well, right? You can't play like a shooter with one hand, but
Yeah.
but I was kind of doing that because I love video games too, just as much as I love music, and I started to realize once I got through like that negative patch, and it was very bad. Everything was like, "Hey, Alex, how you feeling?" Well, I wish I could walk. That's just how negative I was. I was
Right. Yeah.
single-minded. Just to add to kind of paint this picture for you guys, so you kind of understand why I was so down before I got up, was that yeah, I broke my leg and my wrist. Then I got COVID on top of that. Gave
Mm.
it to my family because they were taking care of me for a bit too. Had to go to the ER because there was a possible blood clot in my leg. I got a bad ear infection that made me pass out. All in this like 3-week period. All this shit
Jeez. Yeah.
kind of happened at once, and it was just one of those things. It was like I had such a good year in 2021. I guess it had to end on a bad note, but so that was all happening. So what I was doing to really, once I started to get out of it, a lot of it was honestly just reassurance from the people around me at first, right?
Mhm.
Like I kept just going down, like this kind of digging deeper into myself, into this little hole, like especially like when I had COVID and I was stuck at my parents' house because they had it too. Um, I was just going deeper and deeper in, not talking to anybody, didn't want to talk to Steph, didn't want to talk to anybody. And then I had a lot of friends, a lot of support from my friends, which I thought was really awesome. And friends are so important, especially in times like this. And you know who your real
Mhm.
friends are. One of my closest friends here, I'm in Memphis, that I made when I moved here. He was so supportive. He'd check in all the time, and he didn't have to, right? He's just a buddy that I have, right? And
Right.
he brought dinner over a few times. Like thinking about the people that care about you make you want to get better for them, because I know how negative I was. It was affecting the people that were trying to take care of me, like Steph and my parents and stuff. So realizing I had this support system around me started to kind of bring me out of that, to
Mhm.
kind of cope and deal with everything. Um, this is a kind of random one, but one of my friends recommended a book to me, actually. Couldn't really read it well, obviously, but I got the audiobook, and it was called The Energy Bus. And it's cheesy. It's a cheesy book, but it's about keeping positive and finding the positivity in things, even when
Mhm.
a bunch of negativity is thrown at you.
Mhm.
So if you're really in a dark place, especially in like, I guess with negativity and like you're just really down on yourself, I do actually recommend that book. Like I said, a little cheesy, but it actually writes
Yeah.
the message home pretty well. So
Sometimes those cheesy books are the best ones.
seriously,
I've learned so much from those. I mean, one book that profoundly changed my life was The Tao of Pooh, all about Winnie the
mhm.
Pooh, like and explaining Taoism through Winnie the Pooh and everything.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it's cheesy. It's like with Winnie the Pooh and everything. It's what you would expect with that. But I mean, it
Right.
profoundly changed my life. It was a great book.
That actually
Um,
sounds interesting.
but Yeah, I think, having those friends around definitely helps for sure. I know for me with, the anxiety disorder that I have and everything I've dealt with that, I know that a lot of the leaps and bounds that I've made in those times is because of my loved ones and everything and all that support and just, I know I said not too long ago that I'm not only getting better for myself, but I want to be better for my people, and
Absolutely, yeah.
it definitely helps drag you out of that for sure.
Oh yeah. It's just one of those things, like at the end of the day, when you start to realize, because in a lot of ways, even if you don't mean to be, like it's a very selfish thing. Like especially if there's people around
Right.
you who are wanting to take care of you and stuff,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what I realized. I was like, all they're trying to do is help, and I'm just, you know, frankly just being an ass. You know, I mean, at the end of the
Right.
day, that's really what I was doing. What my reaction to stuff is I just become a jerk. So, but yeah, so having that support group really helped. And then as time went on and I started to heal a little bit, but I still was pretty immobile, I realized that my negativity really was bigger than what I was making it to be, and I could do more than I actually thought that I could.
Mhm.
So like I realized, you know what? I may only have really one hand that I can really use, but I can still play piano with my left hand. Why do I have to not like who says I can't do that, right?
Mhm.
So, and it's just kind of like a I think time is a great healer for that. You know, time you just kind of realize you process, you cope, and you go, okay, I can still kind of do some stuff. You know,
Mhm.
so it really just took
Right.
friendship and time. That's really what I guess what it took for me to kind of get back. And then as things continued to heal, and I got this giant plate taken out of my wrist again, and I'm starting to feel normal. I can walk again. Then it's just back to normal. But there were a lot of lessons learned about myself, I guess, during that. So,
Right. And you gotta learn the lessons when you come out the other end. Like to me, that's
Mhm.
always the most important part. And it,
oh my
like
God, yeah.
and something that gripping that pops up out of nowhere in life too also can help you appreciate on the other side things a little bit, maybe that you didn't beforehand or whatever. Like especially
Yes.
like getting back into like doing music and stuff, and just how simple it is just to sit down, turn everything on, and get right to it. It's like you just such a deeper appreciation. Like, all right, I don't
You,
want to have to
you're right.
get back and go through that months periods of not being able to do what I want.
Right. Yeah. You don't really realize how much you value that stuff, even though you do, but you don't
Mhm.
until you
Right.
can't do it. Right. And on the same token, I also have more compassion now for people who are injured and crippled. Like, not that I've
Right. Yeah.
ever hated those people before, but like
Right.
now but you know what I mean? Now when I
Oh
see,
yeah.
Right.
that dude with a walker, just like I had to use for 2 months, it's like, man, I'm sorry, man. Like, and I just have more compassion. Like, I want to help these people because I know how much it sucks. But it really opens your eyes in a lot of ways. But once again, you always think, and kind of one of the biggest lessons that I learned was that like you think you think you're invincible,
Oh yeah.
and until it happens to you, right?
Yeah.
And there were so many things that I always kind of had that mindset, like I thought, my, somebody I know got in a car wreck, that wouldn't happen to me, not that you think that way, but it's like
Right.
you don't think it's going to happen to you, and then it does. And when it happened to me, I guess the lesson I was talking about, or one of them, was I really wasn't prepared to deal with the processing part of this.
Mhm.
I wasn't, you know what I mean? So I just checked out. So like I think one of the biggest lessons learned is be prepared for things to happen and handle them and tackle them the best you can. Feel your feelings. That's important too. But
Oh yeah.
but then after you feel how you need to feel, get the
Mhm.
stuff done you need to get done so you can get better. Because I
Yeah.
feel like my process would have been quicker if I would have done that. Instead, it took me a long time
Yeah.
to kind of process stuff. So yeah, big lesson learned there.
Yeah. I was gonna say we keep talking about the keeping positive angle of weathering the storm, but the storm itself also has to happen. So like
Right? Yeah.
for me, I know a big lesson I learned recently. I think it was like around January or February. I started having these really strange episodes, and I have a thing called pseudo seizures. That's basically an anxiety disorder. It's a very quick way to explain that. But in January, it happened three separate times where I was just kind of hanging out, and all of a sudden, I just became filled with rage out of nowhere. Just, I mean, like
Mhm.
punch a wall filled with rage. Just like
Right.
like
Yeah.
I couldn't understand where it was coming from. Um, it felt so random, and then all of a sudden, it would build and build and build, and then in about 45 seconds time, I'd run through like every single emotion, and then just
Yeah.
almost pass out, like just practically pass
Wow.
out, like fall asleep, just kind
Right.
of pass out. Um, I barely remember the first time it happened. The second time it happened, um, I was here with two of my friends, and I had went to the bathroom when it happened, and when it was done, I was like just asleep on the floor of the bathroom. And the third
Dang.
time it happened, I was at Walmart with my mom and my best friend, and it scared the shit out of me. I just didn't
Yeah.
understand what was going on, and shortly after, I started reading more into highly sensitive people. Uh, and I've been told before by counselors, doctors, all sorts of people, like, oh, you're highly sensitive. And when you hear that, you just, you kind of think, oh, oh, you're sensitive, And so when I
Right.
started actually reading into HSPs, highly sensitive people, um, my eyes opened so much to who I am and the things that I deal with. And it's like I've literally had a book on my shelf, the book on this exact subject that all of these articles were drawing off of. I've had that
Yeah.
book on my shelf for maybe 2 or 3 years now, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it. Lo and behold, all these answers I had been looking for was in this book.
Right.
Um, and in learning about myself as a highly sensitive person, and basically learning that I have a highly sensitive nervous system, everything for me is just cranked to 15. So whether it's
Right.
emotions,
Right.
physicality, everything, I just experience it so much stronger than the average person. And so I had read about that, and around the time that these episodes were happening, I was working out, which is not something I usually do. It was a new thing. I
Right.
had been working out, I'd been changing my diet and everything, and I had seen that some of the side effects of working out and first getting into that is mood swings and stuff. And when
Oh,
I saw
interesting.
that and I had a better understanding, I kind of put the pieces together of this is my highly sensitive nervous system dealing with this side effect of working out and just cranking it, you know,
Right.
as high as it can go.
Right.
And the moment I figured that out, it was so much easier for me to weather that storm, and
Yeah.
and to understand that anything else that comes my way from now on, it's going to be easier for me to weather that storm because I know that's what it is. Because it's
Right.
so easy to be in the midst of that storm and think this is never going to end, but all
Right.
storms
Yeah.
pass, and I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that was the biggest lesson I took from all that was now when I'm in the midst of something like this, I know it will pass. This is not permanent. And
Right.
just being able to know that helped
Well,
exponentially.
yeah. You're able to connect the dots in a way you haven't before, and yeah, learning about yourself is so important. And I think a lot of us think we know ourselves, but guess what? In 10 years, you're going to learn so much more about yourself when the next storm happens. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and I feel like that's kind of what life's all about. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
not to become a Disney Channel movie, but it's true. Like,
Yeah.
the more I think the more storms that happen, because they'll all be different. They're not all going to be
Mhm.
the same. But I think the more you go through, the more you'll learn, and the more you'll be able to move on and move past it and get ready to take on the next one head on. Right?
Mhm.
I've always said one thing I've always said is that life is literally the greatest gift and the worst gift we could be given. You know what I mean? And I think
Mhm.
if it weren't for the worst ones, we wouldn't realize how great it is
Right.
too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So,
That balance. Yeah.
um, yeah, the balance is important. So I totally get that. Learning about yourself, connecting those dots is huge, and that's definitely something um, that I did too. In fact, if you don't mind me kind of veering off to another section of something, I because I do think keeping positive in all that is so important. Another big lesson I know that I personally learned was just understanding that you can be in that space, and I'll kind of explain why. So, I used to be the guy, and not even that long ago, probably like in my early 20s, I was the you're not depressed, you're just bummed out, get over it. I was that guy.
Mm.
Okay, I used to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are, and a lot of people don't take mental health seriously. That's why I love that you're doing Mental Health Mondays. Like, I think that's such a great idea because I think we've come a long way, but there's still a long ways to go for people to really understand how important it is to keep your brain healthy and
Oh yeah.
happy. I'm glad you're doing that. But yeah, so and then I used to work a job that I hated. I won't go into the details of it. We all have jobs we hate sometimes, but
Right.
it got so bad for me, and I was there for so long that I entered what I would consider my first depression. And this was a few years ago now. And when I went through that, and I realized how much it changed me at that time, and just how enclosed I got, and how angry I got, and all those things, I kind of realized like how important it is to take care of the people, and how real depression and anxiety is. Like, and once again, I never went through that before. I was fortunate enough to not really deal with anything that made me depressed or anxious till I was in my early to mid 20s, but
Hmm.
it still happened, because that's what life does. It throws you those storms. But
Oh, it
there was
does.
so much I learned from that. And now I can kind of tell the telltale signs if I'm kind of getting back into that slump, and if I can kind of pull myself out before I go back there again, because I know what it's going to be like. And, so that was a big thing too. Another big lesson to learn. Like you can kind of, if you can catch yourself
Hmm.
before you
Oh
slip,
yeah.
because
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
it's hard to
Oh
get back
yeah,
out of it.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, we've learned that trick really good over here.
Yeah.
We definitely be catching, and it's nice because having the conversation allows other people to holler at us too,
Hmm.
mhm.
and ask for advice or figure out different ways to go,
Right.
because everyone's different, and what works for me
Yep.
might not work for you, and vice versa. Or what works for me might be the recipe that works for people. Luckily for
Sure.
like my depressions and stuff that I've went through, I've usually pulled off good with like music. Music's always hit me really good in certain
Hmm.
ways, and not creating music myself, but it's just like it's found its way to me. Like the
Sure.
last time that I had one was, I was like sitting good, just got married, had a house, the family was all living
Hmm.
in town again. I think my son had just moved back recently, so we were all good.
Hmm.
And then it was like over the holidays that year, it's like my grandmother passed away, and then me and my wife, we was like, nah, this ain't working out. We're gonna split, and it's like it all fell apart.
Oh
And
man.
I think I've talked probably about this on the show before, because at the time then I was recording this mixtape with a group that they're like, you should get more emotional, kind of let everybody know who you are as a person. And so I was tapping in all of this like emotional type things that I haven't really thought
Hmm.
of like years worth. And then all this happens, and I'm trying to record a song about how like I felt like I'm living in the best days that I've been living like recently. So that
Hmm.
was like
Hmm.
a huge like process to go through, all the like grief and
Sure.
separation and learning to be back on your own. And then uh just feeling like, damn, it's all gone, lost. And I slid into like a depression slump. And then like this artist that I like, then he puts out an album. He's got a song called The Next Storm, and it's basically sitting there laying this out, saying, there's you got a choice of staying inside and being afraid of the next storm that's going to pass through and get you a little wet, or you can get out there and you can face it head on.
Hmm.
And
Right.
that message coming, at the time, was like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And
Hmm.
it's like, exactly, like I can't be afraid of getting, heartache or
Hmm.
anything. Like, you got to get out there, you got to face it head on. And when I
Right.
look at life as like a weather pattern, okay, so you know I at that time, I'm at the end of my storm. It's still cloudy, but there's going to be a sunny day ahead. It's going to be nice. I'm going to want to get outside. I'm going to want to get down and do my thing. So when I started looking at it like that, and all these things come through, like tomorrow I might wake up just not in a good mood and just not feeling
Hmm.
it. It might be a cloudy day emotionally for me tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that Thursday's not going to be bright and sunny.
Right.
or
Right.
or
Yeah.
the clouds could part Wednesday evening and give me a
Yeah.
Exactly.
nice sunset of emotion, and I'm right back in it.
You're nailing these metaphors, man. I mean,
Right.
you are, man. You're keeping it right on theme there. No, but no, for real though, you said the word choice, and that's a huge thing, right? Like,
Hmm.
you may not be able to choose sometimes if you kind of get into that slump, but you do have the choice to remember that Thursday the clouds could part, right?
Hmm.
Like, to kind of get yourself back out of there, and that's the problem too, is that it's so much easier. if you're gonna make a decision, it's easier to stay like bummed out. Like it's
Oh
so
yeah.
much easier to
Hmm.
It
stay
is.
negative about everything. And so once you can hit that wall, make that realization that maybe tomorrow is gonna be better.
Hmm.
And you can keep that going. Like I'm a big person on when it comes to like. I really do think positive reinforcement is huge. Like whether it's to yourself, to others, and stuff. Just speak those things into existence and stuff,
Hmm.
and like just you know what you it's the classic thing, and I think what you uh what is it, what you put out is what you take back, or how's the phrase go? What
Then
you
I,
know what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah,
it wrong, but you
I
know
get,
what I'm
yeah,
trying
I
to
get
say.
what you're getting at. Yeah.
Like, and I think that's true. I really
no,
do. Is
definitely.
but yeah, making that choice,
Yeah,
because that's huge.
we talk all the time on this show about perspective and just changing your perspective on things,
Hmm.
um, because that makes a world of difference. If you're if you think things aren't going to be okay, they're not going to be, because that's your mindset.
Right.
They are not
Hmm.
going to be okay. But if you tell yourself, you know what, things will be okay, you're going to have an easier time getting out of that. And to
Most
what Shep
definitely.
was saying, that's just that's why I love art so much. It takes a
Oh
book
yeah.
or a song or a movie, definitely coming along at the right time. There have been plenty of times where I've left a movie and I saw it at just the perfect time of my life, and it just completely changed things for me, or brought
Isn't
me
that
out of that
amazing?
slump. And that's why I love to
Like,
create, like what you're saying about that's your coping,
right.
is to create and stuff. And I feel that same way. I have a reverse thing from what Shep was saying, because back in 2015, that was like one of my hardest times. And I wrote a script then. I wrote the first draft of the script then while I was in this dark place. And it was very cathartic for me. Now, writing the second draft, I'm in such a better place. And it's so weird to try to tap back into that, and try
Sure.
to,
Yeah.
put yourself back in a darker headspace just to finish writing the thing.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
Right.
little
Yeah.
trickier for sure. But I had something similar with I was working at the movie theater here not too long ago, and I made the choice to quit that job because when I have these seizures and stuff, when I was working other jobs, if I had a seizure and I had to call off work or something, my go-to comfort zone is the movie theater. So as I'm working at the movie theater, if
Oh,
any of these things ever happen and I call off
dang.
work,
Yeah.
I can't go to my comfort zone. I can't go to the place where
Right.
I escape and try to cope and feel better. And so I made the choice to quit because I needed that sanctuary for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's how you do it. I mean, like,
Yeah, no, that makes
you could.
sense.
Yeah.
It really does. You got to have your safe space, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And if your safe space is where you're working every day, I mean, it's just
Yeah, it doesn't help.
not gonna
Yeah, we
work out
went and
like that.
caught a movie couple weeks ago, and I think it was the first time I saw people who recognized me there, and they asked me about me not working there anymore, and I was like, it might sound corny, but I love this place too much. Like I can't work here, like I love this
That's
place.
hilarious.
So it's like
I love it so much. I gotta
I
leave. I'm
love it too
sorry. I
much.
can't
Y'all
do
are
it.
killing this for me.
I mean, I get it. I do have a question for both you guys because I'm just curious. On a not like super down, but just like on like maybe just kind of a bummed out day, right? Like
Mhm.
if we're gonna use the weather metaphor, say like it's a light rain outside, okay?
Okay.
On a day like that for you, average day, not in the middle of any depression, just maybe just kind of a bummed out day in general, and you do want to listen to something, okay, like music. Are you gonna listen to something that kind of keeps you in that space, or are you gonna listen to something that's more uplifting to try and take you out of it? What's your go-to? I'm
I
just curious. I don't
I
think there's a
love this
wrong answer here. I'm
question.
just curious.
Uh, I can definitely answer this with movies,
Okay, yeah.
because I always tell people my favorite movie to watch when I'm sad is one of the saddest fucking movies ever made. It's Blue Valentine
Okay.
with Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams. It's my go-to movie when I'm
Okay.
sad, because I always tell people I'm not going to put it in a comedy or something to make me feel better. Why do I want to watch these people laughing and having a good time? I just want to cry with Ryan
Right,
Gosling,
right. I totally get
So
that.
yeah,
That's hilarious.
but I kind of feel that way with music as well sometimes. Just kind of getting into those sad vibes, and I think it enhances the ability to feel your feelings. you know? So
Yes, to
if
get
it's
that
already there, you
out.
can
Yeah.
just kind of let it out. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
that's what I was exactly going to say. It's like I learned years ago that your attitude on life and your everything, if you listen to nothing but hate music, you're going to probably be a pretty hateful person. If you listen to nothing but down, you're
Yep.
going to be probably pretty down all the time. It's
Mhm.
like, come on, like, it's if you want
Yeah.
to be happy and you're like, no, I really want, like, yes, listening to happy music every day will make you at least feel more energetic and maybe more willing to try
Sure.
to do new stuff. But so to me it really just depends. Like, if I've been having a lot of good days lately and I wake up and it's like, rainy outside and I'm kind of just like, I'm probably going to put on, see, I don't like to get really too sad. So I probably put on
Yep.
like lo-fi music. That's just kind of
Yeah. Just
like,
something
to me,
Yep.
relaxing. Yeah.
goes along with it and stuff. But
I do that
like,
a lot. Yeah.
yeah, but there is times, like I said, I can switch that right up and get right to something more energetic. And like, if I got something going on or anything like that. So, like I said, music to me has always just played a really big part in everything.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm kind of a similar similar boat to you, Chase. It's very kind of a similar place. Like if I'm in a or really good place, like say you just something great happened, whatever, you're driving home, whatever it is, you got a promotion at work, whatever it is, doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Something great happened, and then you're gonna turn on that
Right.
upbeat
Yeah.
whatever because it makes you feel good,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, it's same for me though too. Like if it's just kind of like a bummed out day, like just I'm not feeling too great, but it's not horrible. It's like you kind of sometimes, just like you said with your movie, like you kind of want to be in that space for a while, and I think that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
maybe not for some people. You got to know yourself and know maybe the extent of
Definitely.
how sad you are that day, I guess. But um, I know, like my girlfriend Steph, for example. I asked her that question a long time ago, probably when we first were starting to really get to know each other years ago, and I remember it was interesting because everybody's different. Because she said, if I'm feeling even remotely sad, I'm only going to play happy music to try and get me out of it.
Right.
And I think, and that's kind of goes back to what you guys said about everybody's a little bit different.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everyone handles their emotions in a different way,
Yeah.
and if you're going to go to a dark space, if you sit in that for a while, whether it's
Mhm.
a sad movie or sad music or whatever, then don't tempt yourself. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's all about knowing,
Yeah.
kind of
Definitely.
what we said before, all about knowing yourself.
I think the only one size fits all advice when it comes to mental health is to just know yourself.
Yes. And don't be afraid to get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Like
Definitely.
there's
Oh yeah.
so many people, like especially like the generation above us, like our parents, right? And their parents, you're
Yeah.
raised, especially if you're a guy, you know how it is. Like you
Uh-huh.
don't have feelings, you're a man. Now get out there and build
Yep.
a house. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Pretty
Right.
much.
Yeah.
go that's just what it is. And and it wasn't quite like that for me growing up. I come from a very artistic, creative family. So when you're artistic and creative, feelings are a big
Mhm.
part of it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I'm blessed to have a
Mm.
mother who was very open to expressing how you feel and
Yeah.
stuff and knowing how to deal with that. But
Yeah. And I was gonna
like a
say
lot of
being a
people don't, and you got to navigate that when you become an adult yourself.
being a creative is just one of those things that I'm grateful for it for sure. I think we've talked about it on the show before that when you are a creative person, you have these outlets that you can feel those feelings and create them into something new and something beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've all made something here, whether it's a script or music or something that came from a deep emotion, good or bad.
And it helps you, and this is kind of a well-known cliche, but it's important to say, like, it helps you process whatever emotion you're feeling. Some of
Mhm.
the greatest things any artist, famous or not famous, has made
Yep.
always comes from the deepest parts of their heart or their
Mhm.
brain. It comes from a personal place, and I think
Mhm.
it's so important. And in a way, not everybody may be an artist, but I always encourage everybody to find their thing so they
Mhm.
can process that, and it's
Yeah.
going to be a beautiful thing, whether you're a writer or a comedian. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just but I can only imagine, though, to be honest, like for people who really aren't inherently creative, it's probably tougher, if I were to guess, to find that way to get that out. You know what I
Right.
mean? We've all got to get that stuff out.
Yeah.
I
I
can only
could see
imagine how
that.
hard it is for a non-artist.
Hmm.
I actually was seeing people on the internet today talking about a guy was talking about how his wife had like anger trying to get it out, like a lot of self-deprecation, like hating on herself and
Hmm.
stuff. And what people's advice was for them was like, they're like, yeah, I don't really always condone violence, but like, man, take her out back with a couple bottles and let her smash some glass on
Yeah.
the ground.
Hmm.
There's got to be an outlet. Or they were like, start a punching bag. When you get angry at life or
Hmm.
something, go hit a punching bag. A few times, get it out, because
Yeah.
it is important to get it out and process and move past.
Definitely.
Everyone's got their outlet. You just got to find what it is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of those like places where like you can go and just destroy shit for
Just
an hour?
destroy shit. I think so.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Champagne has one now.
Oh, do
They
we?
got one now. That's cool.
Hmm.
Maybe
I
next time
think
I'm back home, we all
we can
gotta
go.
go.
We can
That'd
go
be fun.
smash some shit up.
I think it's like
That
60
sounds fun.
bones, 60 bones for 30 minutes. Holler at
I
us
mean,
with the
hey.
sponsorship. I got some stuff we can break.
That's awesome.
It'd
But
be
seriously,
no,
for some people, like that would be like probably the best thing. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well,
Like,
when I was working as a laborer a few years ago, my favorite part about that job is like that's one of the only jobs I've ever had that like if you're having a bad day, you're just going to want to get to work because I work with my parents and mostly we just did demolition. So it's just like take the
oh yeah,
sledgehammer and go knock that fucking wall down. You'll feel
oh
a lot
yeah.
better here in about 30 seconds for sure. So yeah, if you're having a bad day, just go take it out on your job, and that
Right.
was kind of nice with that. That's something I actually, it's like the number one thing I miss about that job is because I am
Sure.
definitely not the laboring type at all, but I enjoyed that job a lot just because of the physical aspect of it. It gave me that release when it came to those kinds of emotions.
You mentioned the physical aspect, and you mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, like working out and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I've always been a big advocate for, especially if you want it, for eating well and exercising.
Hmm.
I don't mean diets. I mean just eating well. You
Yeah.
don't need to go on a
mhm.
diet to eat well,
Hmm.
and that directly correlates. I feel like I have no proof, but I know it does because I've experienced it myself. Directly correlates with like your mental health,
Yes, absolutely.
and it helps you stay positive. I learned this was a few years ago. I call it the the fat Alex days. At least fat for me. I put on a lot of weight. This is during my same era when I had that job I hated. Okay, I put on a lot of weight. I was eating, crappy fast food 5 nights a week, literally 4 to 5 nights
Hmm.
a week. I gained about 45 pounds, and for a guy my size, that's a lot of weight to put on in like a 3-4 month span. So, um, and then when I finally went through kind of my processes, and at that time I didn't have anything broken, so I could make music and deal with things. And I realized I got to get out of this. And one of the things I didn't just make music and write songs. I also changed my diet. I thought I need to stop eating this,
Hmm.
McDonald's or whatever I was eating, and doing that and going outside and running and just being out. I tell you what, the one thing I loved about mountain biking so much was that you're just out in the elements. You're just
Hmm.
in nature, and there's something so cathartic about just
Yeah.
being there, and it really just puts you in a great space.
Honestly,
Like,
every
and
time you tell this story, I just remember that you're in Tennessee and that's the nature you get. And I miss that so
yes,
much. Like I miss
yeah,
going on hikes in Tennessee. They had some
yeah.
great spots for sure.
That's the thing. That's one of the many reasons why I moved. Is like, listen, Illinois, man. Like, I mean, it'll always be home, but like,
Right.
there's just
You
nothing.
can
There's
only walk
nothing.
around Kickapoo so many times.
Right, exactly. I'll never forget. I think I told you this, Chase, when I met you, but I have family who's from Colorado. Talk about beautiful sights, right? And when they came to Illinois for the first time, this is when I still lived there, of course. They were amazed because it was like
That's
you
funny.
can see that house and it's like 6 miles away. Like
Yeah.
there's because you're just driving through cornfields or whatever through the country. It's like yeah, it gets old pretty quick. Trust me, I'd rather look at mountains every day than look at frickin' beans or corn.
I thought of you
So
guys today. My best friend is baby mama's here visiting from Tennessee,
mm,
and
okay.
he said last night he was visiting with them, and he stepped outside for a cigarette. She's like, "Oh, I'll come with you." And he's like, "Okay, well, you're gonna want to grab a coat." And she's
Yep.
like, "Oh no, it'll be fine." And as soon as she stepped outside, she's like, "Oh my god, it's so cold." And then when I saw her today, that was the first thing she said. It's like, "I don't know how you guys do it. It's freezing." And I
I
told her
know.
about Stephanie's experience when y'all were here
Oh,
last.
Steph. Oh my God. Yeah, it was horrible. That poor girl. She's born and raised in Memphis,
Yeah,
Tennessee.
when
She,
she told me that, when she's born and raised Tennessee, I was like, "Oh, well, then this is going to be a shock."
yeah. Oh yeah. And it's
Nah.
funny because like, oh no, no, go ahead, Shep. You're good.
Oh, I was gonna say my worst one was living in Florida and coming back to visit up
Oh
here
yeah.
and packing for me and my son totally like Florida stuff. So it was like shorts, t-shirts, all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. We
Yep.
landed in Indianapolis and it was 32 degrees. And it's like
Yep.
we don't have
Right.
any
And
clothes
32
for
degrees is
this.
nothing. Right. I mean, like I remember the last winter I had in Illinois, which was the winter of 2018. I mean, we got down to, I remember Chicago got down like record low temperatures with wind chill,
mhm,
like -15, with wind chill. It was like zero without.
yeah,
And it's like, geez, Louise, I don't know how I did it because even I was cold when I went back up there a few weeks ago. Like I
yeah.
must have
Oh,
gotten
I
used to
had that
the
same thing
warmer
when I
weather.
moved to Tennessee and then came back to visit. It took me a minute to acclimate again.
Right. But yeah, but you back to the point though, it's like it's so crucial to spend that
Mhm,
outside time, especially for creatives and musicians in particular. Well, really just if you're in front of a computer. So whether you're making a movie, making a
mhm,
show, making music, you're stuck indoors. And you
absolutely.
love to do it, right? We love what we do, right? We're all creators. We love what we do, but at the same time it's so easy to get in your slump and not realize that you're in a slump while you're creating, and it's good
Mhm,
just to step away and get outside.
yeah.
Um, that's a huge. I'm a huge advocate for that.
Yeah,
Get
I'm a
outside.
big walker. I walk everywhere. I love
Yes.
to walk, and with our 420 stuff coming up, I've been working on music for that, and I haven't worked on anything this week because it's been cold outside. And it's like you would think,
Right.
well, I'm inside, I could be working on music, and when I'm not able to go on walks and listen to what I've done and like review what I've done, I
Hmm.
won't do it. And
Sure.
I definitely experienced when I first started like really getting into working more at my computer, editing and writing, and like you said, everything's on the computer. I'm staring at
Right.
the screen for hours on end, and it got to a point that I have to take a couple breaks a day just to go outside and take a walk, just to kind of recharge a little bit.
Right. And it's good for. I mean, it's good for your. It's even good for going back inside. Like it's good to
Hmm.
step away from what you're working on because you
Hmm.
could be staring at the same thing for. I mean, you work on video, so you definitely know.
Hmm.
You could be staring at the same 3 seconds for an hour to try and make it look right or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And you can kind of lose sight. Or on the music side, you could be listening to the same loop for 10 seconds over and over and over
Hmm.
again. You got to step away and get back to because it'll help
Definitely.
you realize. Oh, wait a second. I wouldn't have caught that if I didn't step away for a minute. So
Hmm.
I always have a rule that I set. I never stand still for more than an hour in the studio, whether I'm editing a video or I'm doing music. Like if it's that hour mark, I don't set a timer, but I'll keep an eye. It's like, okay, it's 3 o'clock. Once it's 4 o'clock, I'll step outside, just go away for a few minutes, grab a drink, whatever I'm doing,
Hmm.
um, and then come back so you can kind of feel refreshed. It's important to get to
Absolutely.
just kind of get away from that for a while. So
Most
because
definitely,
like I
man.
said, you can get in those weird random like I've been in these before. Like I'm a YouTuber, on top of stuff too. So I make a lot
Hmm.
of videos and stuff. And YouTube burnout is a real thing. And you cannot even realize that you're being burnt out
Hmm.
because you're just in going through the motions. You're almost like a zombie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Shep
don't
and I
know.
have
It's good to
talked.
catch that.
Yeah, Shep and I have talked plenty about how we. It happens like every 3 months where one of the two of us, if
Yep.
not both of us, get into a point where we're just like burnt out or just stressed out. And we basically have the same talk like every 3 months of just kind of reminding ourselves why we started doing
Yep.
this in the first place. And if we're
Hmm.
not having fun with it, we shouldn't be doing it. And so we always kind of
Amen.
reevaluate when we get to that point. Because as soon as we start feeling miserable, like this is a chore, and we start feeling burnt out, we always just take that step back, uh,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah, and that's
That's
usually
so important.
right when it starts coming on too. It's not like you
Mhm.
let it get to a point of no return. It's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
Right.
Like we know we like doing this. Let's reevaluate here and see how we can free up even if it's just as easy as being like, hey, we're gonna take the next 2-3 weeks off of doing streams,
Mhm.
uh
Right.
live some life and have something to talk about when we come back on, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to ruin it, right?
Right.
Because if you don't stop and you keep going, you could ruin that experience for yourselves, and you might end up not wanting to come back for it for a year
Mhm.
because you just completely ruined it for yourself. So,
Yeah,
I
summer
think that's a
camp was
great,
getting that way for sure,
really.
especially for
How
me.
what was your schedule like with that? Like, how long did it take you to do all that?
So summer camp snowballed very, 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 very quickly. We did
Yeah.
Easter Sunday last April, and it was a short
Hmm.
film that we basically like had the idea at the beginning of the week and then shot it over the course of like what 2 days or something like that, I think,
Yeah.
and had it
Okay.
out by Easter. And so after doing that, that was our first short film together, and we were like, we should start doing more of these. And it's like, what should we do for this summer? And it started out as such a small thing, and then it's like, oh well, we'll do it like a series. In our heads at the time, we were going to start releasing these things July 4th, and we were going to be shooting all of like June. um
Hmm.
but even at that time it was 10 episodes before we cut it down to the
Right.
8 and everything. Well, then next thing you know, it started becoming bigger and bigger. And I think we conceived the idea in May, like almost like right after we finished our Easter Sunday and 420 stuff last year. Uh, like around the end of May, we came up with the idea, and then from the end of May to the like mid September,
Hmm.
we conceived the idea, wrote it, did all the pre-production, shot it, and released it in that little window. um,
Right.
and we were still filming stuff even as we were releasing stuff.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
it was a lot in a short amount of time. But I say
Sure.
especially for me because I was wearing so many hats on that even with Shep, even he got the opportunity to like go home from it. Like he wasn't going home and
Sure.
editing. So like
Right.
we would shoot all day, and he would get to go home. I'd go home and I'm taking all this shit with me and going right back into editing it and doing this and doing that. And
Sure. Yeah.
I got to a point where I'm like, fuck this camp. I'm like, I don't care about this place
Right.
anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
it's been nice to have this time away. We're getting ready to release the final two episodes, and now that we're coming back to it, it's been like what, October was the last time we were working on
I
it.
think so.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we just took that time away from it, and I'm genuinely to a point where I miss it. Like I miss that world, and I'd like to get back into it
Sure.
again. And I needed
Sure.
that for sure, because we started talking
Yeah.
about a season two, and we weren't even done with season one. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, season two," and it's like we got a great idea for it and everything. But I finally told Shep, I said, I do not want to do season two next year. I need time. I need time away from
Take
that
your break. It's
world.
worth
Yeah.
it because you don't want to go back into, one of your babies,
Mhm.
meaning your projects. Like, you don't want to go into one of your projects like halfway there here, right? Like,
Mhm.
because you're not going to make the best product you can make. It's so good. It goes back to the whole point of this. Like, it's, a positive mindset, having a healthy brain, going in, making something is going to be way better than doing it half-assed, like
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
So,
and
and it's,
what
and it had,
well,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say,
Sorry.
and like we always go on the wanting to improve the thing, and to me, it's always been one of
Mhm.
those things that's like, if you already got people when the first one's coming out asking for a season two, that gives us something that's always there that we already know people want. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Right.
why
Yeah.
why jump right to that and not make people like they already want it? So let's make them
Right.
wait for it,
Make them
and then
wait
we
for
can make that
it. Mhm.
be a bigger
Right. Yes.
deal when it
They're not
comes
going
out.
anywhere. If they like it, they're gonna wait for the next thing. So,
Right.
like,
Right.
you don't have to. It's easy to become, and I've learned this lesson. I've been a consistent creator for this will be 10 years this year, and I've learned that you can easily fall and become victim to your audience,
Mhm.
which is not good for your brain. Like, you think, I got to put out this video this week. I got to do this because if not, they're gonna disappear.
Mhm.
Whatever. It's like, if they really like your stuff, man. They're they I know, at least from my experience with my audience, that I've learned, because the videos that I make they take a long time to make. Each video that I make, I make medley videos. It's a long story, but it takes 40 to 50 hours to make one video, right? And it's a
Mm.
3-minute video, mind you. Three
Oh yeah.
minutes to make 50 hours, right? Because I got to do the music, I'm doing the editing and stuff. And I used to, years ago, I would say, sorry guys, it's going to be an extra week before I can put out this video. And then I'd have I built a very positive community, which, oh, we lost
Oh, Shep just disappeared. That's fine. You keep
is it
going.
okay?
Just keep going. He'll be back.
He'll come back. He'll be back, yeah. They always come back, they do. Um, but no, I was just saying that, like, I have a very positive community that I've built, and I'm very proud of that. And I remember, like, I used to apologize for saying, sorry guys, it's going to be a few extra weeks before this comes out. And
Mhm.
people in the comments would always say, like, Alex, take your time. Like,
Yeah.
do what you need to do. We're gonna be here. Like, it's fine, you know. It's so
Right.
for any like new content creators or friends that I know that want to kind of get into it, I always give that piece of advice to people. Like, just do it for you. Do it if you know, make sure you enjoy it. Don't set these set goals. That's important, but don't like
Yeah.
set these dates, these hard timelines for yourself when you're just going to get burnt out on it. I think that's important. And
Yeah. Definitely.
I also I also wanted to say too, um, the how sometimes maybe getting burnt out on stuff can actually have negative effects and not turn you around. I used to I used to have a channel. It was a gameplay channel on YouTube with a buddy of mine, and we did that same thing. You know what I mean? Like I was you. So what would happen is we'd do the gameplay thing. We'd make a bunch of videos. I'd go home and edit, and it would just get so stressful doing all this stuff. It ended up getting so bad, but I was just getting so burnt out. But we kept going, and it ended up actually kind of hurting our friendship because we ended up fighting and all
Mhm.
this stuff. Like, you know, and so there's detrimental, there's bad effects if you don't take time to just
Yeah.
step away from that stuff.
Definitely.
So,
Um, Shep said he lost Wi-Fi, so we'll see if it comes back. So we might have to close the show out without him. He always
oh
likes to
no.
see he always likes the surprises in our own shows. Um,
Hey, but you know what? That's the storm. That's his little storm today, right?
yeah,
He lost
that's
his
right.
Wi-Fi. He can't finish up the show.
Um, but yeah, unfortunately, too bad he's not here for this part because yeah, I working with Shep has been fantastic because we've had this rapport with one another since day one where we have all sorts of friends we collaborate with, but we have problems with other collaborators that we never have with each other because we're so willing to just communicate. I remember
Yep.
we've got other friends who just want to plan, and I know one day we were going to go film something and we were just like hey, are we doing that thing tomorrow? It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm really feeling it. All right, fuck it, let's not do it. And just it's just
Right.
as easy as that. But in the spirit of weathering the storm, anytime we hit those like 3 month marks and it starts getting tense, whether it's he's feeling overwhelmed by, he does a lot of stuff. He works a full-time job. He's got a son. He does music. He does all this Chase and Chef stuff with me. So it's very easy that other things might start overwhelming him. But like he
Yep.
always knows that here at Chase and Shep, I will always be understanding and we will always work around that. And
Sure.
vice
Yeah.
versa. I mean, I know the other day we were talking on something and I started getting frustrated with him because of like a lack of communication. But because I know Shep well enough and how we work together, I always make that choice of like I'm not going to
Yep.
blow up on him because I'm frustrated. I'm just going to kind of weather this storm and we're going to talk it out, figure it out, and eventually we'll find a mutual place and we can
Oh
move on
yeah.
in a positive light. But yeah, there have definitely been times where I'm more concerned about our friendship taking a hit if we start
Yep.
uh doing things that we don't enjoy and feeling overwhelmed and burnt out by everything. Absolutely.
Right.
And to what you were saying about, because I think when we talked when we first met, you said you kind of played the algorithm a little bit with YouTube, and we don't
Yeah.
do that. We don't play the
Right.
algorithm. And there have been times like if somebody was to just go through and watch our show, you can tell, we can tell for sure that the quality dips as soon as we start doing it for other people. As soon as we start
Yep.
trying to make things for other people, it's like, oh, well, okay, they must like this, so we'll try to do this. Okay, well, now we're creating it. It's becoming a chore, and we hate it, and we're not having
Right.
fun with it.
Yes. Yeah.
And having to let things go sometimes, and telling yourself, hey, we don't have to do this. We started this whole Chase and Shep thing, reviewing horror themed Christmas movies or whatever.
Hmm.
And so we did the movie review thing uh a decent amount our first year, and it was fun until it wasn't. And then it's just we felt like
Right.
we were
Yep.
watching movie, and it was just like a chore. We really hit that when we did our like 31 Slays of Halloween last
Hmm.
October, because we had a whole list of here are the 31 movies we're going to watch, and then that became a chore. It's like sometimes you don't feel like watching that movie, so we shifted gears
Right.
like halfway through. We had that talk with one another, and we're like, we don't answer to anybody. That's the conversation we have all the time. Is the only person that heads Chase and Shep is Chase and Shep. We are the
Right.
top bar, and so we can make those creative decisions to say, yeah, we're going to do something else. We don't
Yeah.
have deadlines set by anybody other than ourselves. So, but like you said, it is
Right.
good to have goals, and we do that a lot. Our biggest lesson recently has just been having those goals and always trying to do better than ourselves, but also
Yep.
learning when to like let go. With the 420 sketch show, there was like a couple skits that we were like, yeah, we'll do this only because we did them last year and we were trying to bring these
Sure.
characters back. And it's like,
Right.
we don't need to do that, for sure.
Right. Well, it's kind of like to your point, just kind of with Shep and stuff like those.
We're talking about you, bud.
Hey, hey, we're just yeah. You just missed the part where he was just complimenting you and your creative relationship, and then just disappear as soon as
Yeah.
he's talking about that. I swear, it's not. I'm not even.
Yeah,
Kidding.
I know it sounds like he's being sarcastic, but it's very true.
No, I
I'm
That's
wasn't
too
being
humble.
sarcastic. It's true.
I don't like to hear
too
praise.
humble. He
I'm
didn't
too
want to hear
humble.
it.
Yeah, you had to step away. But on that, on a similar token, I can definitely kind of relate to that, Chase, with with my partners with Camp Nostalgic, Gail
Mhm,
and Dave. That we've been through another project prior to that
mhm,
called Coffee at 8, and we did a few sketches and stuff. And not that it was stressful, but we put too much on our plate at once.
mhm.
And once again, kind of like you said, I know we're kind of broken records here, but like you just get burnt out. The people you have involved with you, especially if they're your friends and they're not really as into it as you are, they can kind of dip out, and then you don't have anyone to depend on, and you're short actors. I mean, you know how that works.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you told me your story with
yeah,
that with summer
yeah,
camp.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it can be hard. And with Camp Nostalgic, one thing that I love is that we've been working on a singular show for 3 years, and no
Yeah.
one's even seen it yet.
Yeah.
Like, and it's coming out soon, by the way. Little, if I can give a plug, we'll be having,
Oh,
it'll be coming
absolutely.
soon. Camp
We've been
Nostalgic.
plugging Camp Nostalgic for
All the
months.
time. Yeah.
So,
Love 'em.
and we appreciate that, we do. But yes, I mean, and everything's finally coming to fruition, and like it doesn't feel rushed or stressed. Like we've
Mhm.
taken our time, and we're all, the three of us have the best relationship we've ever had because we've taken our time, we've used
Yeah,
our strengths, we've done what we needed to do, and I don't know. And I think that the best product's going to come out because of it. So
absolutely. And
I
I've
think
been
that's
so
so
happy
important.
to be involved over at Camp Nostalgic.
Yeah, of course.
And we've just kind of been switching off, helping one another out on each other's shows. And yeah, I'm so grateful to have met all of you guys. We all seem to work
Yes.
together so well. And I've said this on the show before. I just told Dave this the other day when he was here, but we're similar enough on so many levels, but we are still these separate entities, and that's also nice to have, because there's like
Yes.
you can kind of do different things in different places, where our approach is very fast and loose, their approach is very slow and steady. And I think
Right.
that's why we work so well together, is we kind of meet in the middle there. And
Right.
so like there's certain things that I'm working on with them right now that I know it's not going to be out next week, sort of thing. Whereas like with us, it's like,
Yes.
we are going to be working down like literally to the wire. I know we're shooting stuff at least on April 10th for the 420 show that'll be coming out 10 days later.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like, I know for a fact, we're going to at least be working that close to the wire
Right.
on that show. But, taking a page from their book as well, and deciding like, we now have projects that, you know, you might not catch us working on something for 3 years, but slow for us.
Right.
We've
I'm
got
sure.
plans
Yeah.
to drop stuff this September, and all through the back half of the year, and that's all we're working on, like up till that
Right.
point. So, but
Right.
yeah,
And
it's been
everyone's got
great.
their methods. Everyone's got their pace, and I think it's just important to find yours as a creator. But yeah, you mentioned, the similarities and the differences. I mean, the most refreshing thing that I learned when I kind of when we met Chase and just the whole Chase and Shep, productions in general is like we both have the same mentality of, you're not an aspiring, filmmaker, right? You are one. Like take it seriously. You are
Yeah,
that. Just
Yeah,
because you may not be making $1 million doing it doesn't mean you're not it.
right.
You're
exactly.
you're taking it seriously, and I know that we all share these stories before of growing up. You're making videos, right? You get your friends involved, but your friends are
Mhm.
just kind of doing it because they're your friends. They're just kind of
Right.
hanging out, and then they go home, and you still want to do more of that stuff because
Mhm.
that's really what you want to do,
Yeah.
like. So it's so refreshing to see once again another kind of production house operating from my hometown.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting and great to see, and I hope it inspires more to do the same thing. Honestly, I really
Yeah,
do, and we can all work
absolutely.
together. And
We were just talking on last week's Mental Health Monday about all the new faces we've been working with. Just everybody we've met over the course of year one, and now here we are in year two, and we're just growing. All these
yeah,
people. I think Gella even posted something on Snapchat today about her growing video family, and I feel the same way. It's great.
right,
And to what you were saying about you brought it up a couple times about you get your friends involved and they're like it is what it
right,
is. They want to go home at a certain point, and that's why Shep and I started to get into this vibe of basically just going into everything like it's just us. Everything else is extra, and we're
right.
happy to have them if they're there, but if they don't make it, they don't make it. And
Exactly.
that's
Yeah, that's
that's
important,
you
and it
know
helps your brain too because you're not
Mhm.
stressing out over the top because you're not going to have somebody. We kind of have that same mentality because we've been burnt before
Right.
with like Camp Nostalgic. So yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, oh
You
yeah.
got your core, partnerships going on. As long as that's solid, you're set. You are set.
Gucci.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, any closing thoughts here, boys?
Closing thoughts: all the storms will pass. Some storms are good
That's
storms.
right.
You got to use some water to grow, and if the water is coming from your eyes, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's okay. Feel your feelings. It's all right. Listen,
It's
I'm
okay.
talking to the generation above us. Okay, the
That's right.
dads out there, like, well, I mean, of course you're a dad, Shep, but our dads, right? Like, it's all right. Feel your feelings, man. Like, you
Right.
can build that house still, but just feel it. I don't know.
Right.
I think
Feel
that's
it.
very important. So many people could learn that lesson. Just it's okay to go through what you need to go through.
Don't forget the
Just
tears,
remember
is the
to
blood, sweat, and
make.
tears.
That's right. It's not just blood and sweat. There's tears too. So.
I don't even know how to follow that up. I agree with everybody here.
What can I say?
Um, yeah, you just it'll be over. It'll pass. It's not forever.
Yeah,
Those storms aren't going to last forever. And
it's true.
I think my biggest closing thing is that the universe is usually working for you, even in those moments where it feels like it's not. Your
Yeah.
accident that you had, I definitely understand where it could be very easy to slip into, everything's fucked, like just that
Right.
mentality.
Yeah.
But it's, what we talk about here with changing perspective and just seeing how an event like that benefited you in the long run. And
For sure. Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
the cosmic things in my life that just kind of happen that you're like, wow, like, meeting Dave and Gella, and the fact that, like, all of us have come together in such a just a complete happenstance. I was talking to somebody about it the other day about, if you think about the events that transpired that brought us together, they were all by chance, all complete
Yes.
chances. Like, of that, had we not swapped actresses with that, it just happened that another summer camp movie was filming at exactly where we were filming. We swapped
Right.
actresses. That actress knew Dave and introduced the two of us, and we meet. We're from the same area, as it turns out. Uh,
Yep.
Grew up pretty much in the same place, and in two different towns. We were doing the same things, growing up with a video
Hmm.
camera, making dumb little videos with our buddies, and being the two people who grew up into adults and didn't stop doing it. And just
Right. Yeah.
all of those cosmic dominoes falling to put us where we are, and it's fantastic feeling for sure.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Agreed. Absolutely.
So, with that being said, Alex, thank you so
you
much
much,
for
brother.
joining us.
Yeah, hey, it was great. It was great chatting with you guys both. I'm so glad that I recently met you and discovered what your creations. It's amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing more and of course, working more in the future as well
Yeah,
together.
I was
Most
going to say,
definitely,
I'm
man.
looking forward to working with you.
Absolutely.
There's gonna. Oh, did you want to plug yourself while you're here?
Yes. I meant to say that
Oh
too.
yes, I would love to plug myself. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Alex Duquette's my name. You can find me at that anywhere. I'm a entertainer, musician, podcaster. The things that everybody does, right? But I'm mainly known for doing. If you like nostalgic kind of cartoons and shows and stuff, check out my YouTube channel, Alex Duquette. I'm predominantly online, known for creating medleys where I take 20 of your favorite childhood theme songs and putting them into a 3-minute song. Quick little
Nice.
bite-sized songs, really fun. So check it out. But you can check it all out at alexduquette.net.
Awesome.
And Camp Nostalgic, but I already talked about them.
In Camp Nostalgic, you guys already know.
Whatever.
Whatever. Thank you very much for joining us, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.